Today, the parents of missing University of Virginia student Hannah Graham made an emotional plea.
What if the man responsible for 2 brutal murders was living among us, unseen?
Did anybody see Hannah? Did you see Hannah? Did you see Hannah? Who saw Hannah?
Jess Matthews' shocking confession stunned the world, but the real question remains, could he have been stopped earlier?
Police have publicly named a person of interest in the case.
Don't miss the full story that exposes the dark truth behind his crimes.
I believe Jesse Matthew was the last person she was seen with.
Stay tuned for more revelations that will leave you speechless.
For their daughter's safe return. And while she hasn't been seen in over a week, tonight for the first time,
September 13, 2014. An evening any college student would dream of. 18-year-old Hannah Graham, a second-year student at the University of Virginia, was out on Charlottesville's downtown pedestrian mall, meeting friends and enjoying drinks. But what started as a fun night soon took a dark turn. Around midnight, Hannah left a party at Camden Plaza Apartments after feeling unwell. Her friends offered to walk her home, but she refused. Alone and intoxicated, she wandered in the opposite direction, heading towards Tempo Restaurant. At 12:44 a.m., she sent a text saying she was lost and didn't feel well. Then, Hannah's last words were overheard by a passerby. "I'm not getting in the car with you." And just like that, she was gone. Her friends and family never heard from her again. A search began, but Hannah had vanished without a trace. Hannah Graham was the embodiment of vitality and promise. Born in England, she moved to the United States with her family at the age of 5. Growing up in the serene neighborhood of Stratford Landing in Fairfax County, Virginia, she thrived. A bright, smart, and athletic young woman, Hannah's energy lit up any room she entered. She had a passion for music, excelled in academics, and loved life. Those who knew her spoke of her as someone destined for greatness. Her future seemed full of potential, from her university studies to her dreams beyond. But everything changed in the early hours of September 13, 2014, when a seemingly ordinary night out turned into a terrifying and tragic event. Hannah's bright future was cruelly cut short, leaving behind a void in the lives of those who knew her best. As Hannah wandered alone in the early hours of September 13, 2014, a chance encounter would alter her life forever. Jess Matthew, a 32-year-old man, was out drinking in downtown Charlottesville. A part-time taxi driver, Matthew was known to have made unwanted advances towards women earlier that evening. Around 1:00 a.m., Matthew saw Hannah walking disoriented and intoxicated, her vulnerability evident. He saw an opportunity. Initially, he let her walk by, but then he made his move. He followed her. At some point, Matthew put his arm around Hannah, and they were seen walking together toward Tempo Restaurant. Surveillance footage captured their interaction, but it would be the last time anyone saw Hannah alive. Matthew, a man with a dark past, had just claimed his next victim. Hannah, heavily intoxicated, was no longer in control of her surroundings. At around 1:00 a.m., she sent a text to a friend saying she was lost and feeling unwell. That message would be her last communication. Surveillance footage later showed her walking with Jesse Matthew towards Tempo Restaurant, but there is confusion about whether she entered the bar or stayed outside. The night was slipping away, and by 1:10 a.m., she was no longer in contact with anyone. Hannah's last known words, "I'm not getting in the car with you," were overheard by a passerby as she tried to resist Matthew's advances, but it was too late. She disappeared from the streets of Charlottesville, her fate sealed by that brief encounter. What happened between that moment and her disappearance would remain a mystery, but Matthew had already taken control of her destiny. When Hannah was reported missing on September 14, 2014, her friends and family were frantic. The last communication they had with her was around 1:00 a.m., and no one had heard from her since. Hannah was a responsible young woman, so her sudden disappearance sent shockwaves through the community. Law enforcement quickly launched a massive search, with both local and federal authorities involved. The search for Hannah became urgent as the community feared the worst. Her disappearance was not just another missing person case. Charlottesville had seen other women go missing in the past, and the stakes were high. As hours turned into days, the investigation picked up pace. Surveillance footage from around Charlottesville helped piece together Hannah's last known movements, Every new lead added to the growing concern, but the question remained: where was Hannah? Jesse Matthews seemed like an ordinary man on the surface, but his past was far from clean. Raised in poverty and bullied at school, Matthew had struggled with stuttering and learning disabilities. Despite his troubled childhood, he earned a full football scholarship to Liberty University, but soon dropped out after being accused of sexual assault in 2002. After leaving Liberty, Matthew enrolled at Christopher Newport University, but again, his dark side emerged. He was accused of another assault, leading him to leave once more. Eventually, he moved to Charlottesville, where he worked as a taxi driver. It was here that he became known for making inappropriate advances towards women. Despite his charming exterior, Matthew's past was marked by disturbing allegations. These incidents would later become crucial in understanding his role in Hannah's disappearance, as his violent tendencies were now impossible to ignore. As the investigation into Hannah Graham's disappearance unfolded, Jesse Matthew became the prime suspect. Forensic evidence eventually linked him to her abduction and murder. On September 19, 2014, investigators executed a search warrant at Matthew's apartment and recovered key items, including a cell phone and DNA that matched both Matthew and Hannah. The evidence continued to pile up, and it was clear that Matthew had been the last person seen with Hannah. On September 20, after being confronted with the mounting evidence, Matthew sought legal counsel and refused to speak further to the authorities. A nationwide manhunt ensued, and Matthew was finally apprehended in Texas after being spotted by a passerby. In February 2015, Matthew formally confessed to both Hannah Graham's and Morgan Harrington's murders, providing chilling details of his crimes. His confession brought a sense of closure to the victims' families, though it could never undo the pain he had caused. After years of heartache and tireless searching, the truth about Jesse Matthew was finally revealed. On February 10, 2015, Matthew was formally charged with the first-degree murder and abduction of Hannah Graham. The investigation had connected him to not just Hannah, but also Morgan Harrington, a young woman murdered years earlier. His dark past, filled with accusations and disturbing behavior, had finally caught up with him. Matthew's plea deal on March 2, 2016, shocked everyone. He admitted to the murders of both Hannah and Morgan in exchange for avoiding the death penalty. His sentencing on March 2, 2016, was a relief to the grieving families. Matthew was sentenced to 4 consecutive life sentences with no possibility of parole, ensuring that he would never harm anyone again. Hannah's parents, John and Sue, expressed their gratitude that the nightmare was over. They worked tirelessly to help bring justice for their daughter. They had also advocated for laws that would expand DNA collection in the state, believing that if Matthew's DNA had been taken earlier, Hannah might still be alive today. As for the families of Hannah and Morgan, they continue to honor the memory of their loved ones through scholarships and nonprofit initiatives aimed at saving others. While nothing can replace their daughters, the families have found some semblance of peace knowing that justice has been served. The truth doesn't end here. You won't believe the next case we uncover: the mysterious disappearance of a local legend. Make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on these chilling stories that could change everything. Join us and stay one step ahead. You won't want to miss what's coming next.